that much sooner.
Yes, Mataji, we are on.
There you go. Okay, the power of cell phone. So let's see here. And indeed, we are broadcasting. And so what verse are we going to do today, dear devotees?
28.
Which now
6.28.
6.28 for 500 points. Okay, and our class here includes Sukumal Radhe, Sutapa, Varsha Ravataji, and Surupi Govinda Devi Dasi Mataji. Okay, Dandavat pranams to all of you, dear devotees, as well as to those watching us online. We'll get started on 6.28 after this base prayer to the spiritual master. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yutapakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Dharmami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay, so chapter 6 we have been reading.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'm outside and won't be able to speak, but I'll keep hearing you.
All right. Thank you for joining us from outside. So we'll go to 628. And what does 628 tell us today? Let's first see what was 6.27 telling us. So 6 verse 21 says, Prashanta-manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upeti shantarajasam brahma-bhutam akalmaṣaḥ. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions of past sins. Right? So one who is beyond the mode of passion, what will you say about him in Sanskrit? Beyond the mode of passion?
Shanta Rajasam.
Shanta Rajasam. Very good. And one who is free from sinful reactions?
Kalmaṣam.
Akalmaṣam, right? Kalmash means, kalmash is bad. Akalmaṣam is good. Okay, then today's verse says, yuñjann evaṁ sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantaṁ sukham aśnute. So what is common between that verse and this verse? Any word you found common? Or almost common?
Kalmaṣaḥ.
Kalmaṣaḥ, right? So there it was akalmaṣaḥ, right? And if you go back to that verse and see what was the meaning of akalmaṣaḥ, akalmaṣaḥ here means freed from all sinful reaction, right? And here, if we go to our verse, that's slightly the same thing, but here he's saying vigata-kalmaṣaḥ. Vigata, without sins, right? So, vigata-kalmaṣaḥ, if we look up over here, vigata, freed from, and kalmaṣaḥ, all material contamination, right? There it was freed from sinful reactions. And sinful reactions come because of our material contamination, right? So yuñjan, engaging in yoga practice, evam, thus, sadā, always, ātmānam, the self, yogī, one who is in touch with the Supreme Self, vigata, freed from kalmaṣaḥ, all material contamination, sukhena, in transcendental happiness, brahma-saṁsparśam, being in constant touch with the Supreme, atyantam, the highest, sukham, happiness, aśnute, attains. So here there's a word brahma-saṁsparśam, and we'll talk about that. Translation: thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So when one does transcendental loving service to the Lord, what does one get? What does he achieve?
Highest stage of happiness.
Perfect happiness.
Perfect happiness.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Self-realization by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called brahma-saṁsparśam. Right? So, thoughts? Anything comes to your mind? Nothing comes to-
Self-realization means the constitutional, so no.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. So I was saying that we will talk about the words. I'll talk a little bit more about the word saṁsparśa, right? Saṁsparśa. Sparsh means what?
Touch.
Touch, right? So Krishna talks about sparsh or touch in Bhagavad Gita earlier also, right? So in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is overwhelmed, presented his case in chapter 1, continues to present, but he has surrendered to Krishna now in chapter 2. And then Krishna starts speaking to him, right? And about his unhappiness at the thought of killing his family or, the friends, etc. in the war, or, how will I enjoy the spoils if everybody's dead, like that. So he is lamenting, and Krishna tells him, and this first time he brings in the concept of touch in Bhagavad Gita. So he says in 2.14, very famous
14.
verse, right?
Matrasparsh.
Mata spashestu kanteya.
Yes, martasparshastu konteya. So let's look at that verse, right? And let us relish. So 2.14. Let me share my
But that is more than touch, Mataji. It says sensory perception. So
Yeah, the senses touch, right?
that's it. Yeah, one of the.
Sensory perception comes with touch. The senses go and touch the sense objects, right? So here, matra, if you notice, matra sparshastu konteya, sitoshno sukha dukkadaha, agam apayiniyo nityas anityas am titikshasva bharata, right? So here it says a matra sparshastu konteya. Now, those of you who know Hindi, right? Matra. So sometimes we use the matra, right? Usne, like for example, when the Pandavas said that, give us 5 villages. And then the Duryodhan says like, matra. Sui ki nok ke matra bhi zameen nahi dunga. So matra, right? Matra is measurement. Right? Yeah, itna bhi nahi matra, itna sa bhi nahi dunga. Sui ki nok matra bhi nahi dunga. Like that, they say, I won't give you land even the size of the tip of a needle, right? So that is matra, right? Now, if we look at this verse, at today's verse, not today's verse, but 2.14, Here, this is matra, right? It is not matra. Sparshas, we understand. Sparsh is, you told me, touch, right? So matra, who is touching? Right? Who is touching? That is what you're saying. Matra sparsh, that's when the senses go and touch the sense objects, then you perceive, because they are knowledge acquiring senses. So the senses go and touch, they do the sparsh, right? So matra here means senses. Senses go and sparsh. And in English, in order to understand, explain it to the English speaking world, Prabhupada is saying sensory perception. He's giving you the end result. That when the senses go and touch the sense objects, you perceive something. You perceive some good smell, you perceive a beautiful flower, or something like that. And depending on the sense, perceive beautiful music, like that, right? Or heat or cold. So now here he's saying, Martha Sparshas tu Konteya. So, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Shine of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Right? So Krishna has declared that, what is going to happen here? That you are going to get happiness and distress in your life. We are going to get happiness and distress in our life, no matter what we are doing. Even if we are a yogi, we are sitting and trying to meditate, it will come. Right? So these are, but the key thing over here is it is non-permanent. And something to keep in mind is that when we're talking about something being non-permanent, we are talking both about happiness and distress, right? So when there is distress, it is non-permanent. When there is happiness, equally important, we have to remember that it is non-permanent. Okay? Both of them. So that is why when you have to say, in these situations of happiness or distress, they say you stay equal. Don't get super excited when there is happiness, because when it's going to go away, then you're going to have distress. Similarly, when you have got distress, don't get too anxious and too, crestfallen, and don't start lamenting too much, because that distress will also go away, right? And he's saying how they will go away. He says these are cyclical things. In 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we read, right? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So this is like that. This is a place where you will get distress. Okay? But remember, this will be non-permanent. And in due course, they are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, right? So when your senses go and touch the sense objects, you perceive the information and then you get happy or distressed. Oshayana or Bharata, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Right? So that is one place where he says that. Now, more recently, we have talked about very interesting. Yehi samsparśa jabhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddhaha. Right? In chapter 5, we had talked about yehi samsparśa jabhoga. So the word samsparsh is coming again. Touching. So yehi samsparśa jabhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. So the two verses are almost similar, because Krishna is telling again samsparsh here, by contact with the material senses. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, right? Just like the seasons have a beginning and an end. Summer is going to come, summer will end. Then winter will come, winter will end, right? So a wise man does not delight in them, either one of the two, basically in the pleasures that we have over here, right? So material sense pleasure are due to contact of the material senses, which are all temporary, because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary, knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures. How can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure, right? So, and then Prabhupada goes and quotes so many things there. And very interesting thing is that this is a verse from Shraddha-devi's teachings to his son, and he says that, my dear son, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure. While in this human form of life, such pleasures are available to stool eaters, even hogs, right? Rather, you should, because eating, sleeping, and defending, they also do. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified. And as a result, you'll be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. And actually, the penance, the yogi does do penances, right? He stays at the top. He stays at the top, or sits on a lonely place, yam, niyam, asana, and all that. So the yogi does do that. He does do penances and all that kind of stuff, right? So it is recommended that a person do that, does those kind of things, right? So we know, we are talking about the word saṁsparśa. Saṁsparśa is that when you go and touch, when the senses go and touch. Now, can you tell me some examples of touch and how disastrous the senses going and touching some such object which had disastrous consequences?
From
Like
scriptures,
fire.
Mataji?
Huh?
From scripture stories, Mataji, or in general, Mataji?
Scripture story.
Oh.
Any story.
Saudari Muni, he saw the fish.
Right. So his eyes, his senses, right, went and perceived the fishes in a particular position, right? Like that. Any other senses? Any other examples of senses touching sense objects?
Well, I was thinking about the Kumaras when they smelt the tulsi when they went to visit Vishnu, and they made them think of Krishna, right? But are you only looking at eyes or any kind of senses?
Any senses, any senses.
Yeah, so this is the sense of smell. The
senses.
sense
Huh?
of smell. The sense of smell when they smelt the tulsi leaves and the fragrance when Kumaras went to visit Vishnu, right?
Yes. And was that a disastrous result or?
No, that was a good result. Are you looking for only disasters?
No, that's fine. Good
Okay, all
result.
right. Okay.
And
Yeah, that is also
Mataji,
fine.
another thing that Bharat Maharaj looked at the deer. So that is also eye, the senses.
Right. Correct. Yes. Any other sense? Any other senses that went,
Varshana Mataji is saying Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra, exactly right. Yeah. Which sense was it?
Hearing,
Yes, the
Hear.
sense of hearing. He heard. What did he hear?
ankle
The
bells.
anklets.
Yeah, the sound of the anklet. So just imagine just the sound of the anklet, and then the mind runs and conjures images that it has seen and stored in the previous, So that's what the sound he's assuming. This is happening, right? And this is such a yeah, senses
That's
are
very
deceptive, right?
serious.
We hear about that. The senses can be deceptive, right? They are defective. They can deceive you as well. So there's a very famous story about a king and a prince, and they had gone on hunting, and they were separated from their rest of the entourage. And so they were walking, and they were very tired and thirsty. They were looking for either a hut or some place where we can go.
Parikshit Maharaj also, he goes to the that what is that? Deer sound, water sound, and oh God, his mother, father are
Yeah, Shravan.
Shravan. That
Yeah.
and that sound also. That's also sound.
That sound was deceptive. Yeah, that sound was deceptive. Right. And it was Dasharath. Right?
That's
So
yeah.
Yeah. Right. I actually lost the train. Yeah, so I was telling you the story of a king and his son who were separated, and they were very thirsty. So they're looking for, is there a hut? Is there a hut
Yeah.
close by where they can go and find some drink water? And then they start seeing footprints in the sand of, you can see that they have women's footprints, lady footprints are there, you can figure it out. So one of them are smaller feet and other one is a bigger feet. And so they're looking at that, they're like, oh, these look very beautiful. And so it looks like, it's a mother and daughter, they are going and they are so beautiful. And so they're kings, right? They can do anything they want. So then they decide, okay, they said, okay, fine, they look so beautiful. Just look at mata-sparśas. Look at the mata-sparśa. The eyes have just come in contact with the feet, the fingerprints, the footprints in the sand. And so the father says that, okay, I'll marry the mother and you marry the daughter. The one with the smaller feet you marry, and I'll marry the one with the bigger feet. So they go there. Finally, they chance upon these two ladies, and they are really beautiful. So then they said that we had decided that, this is how we're going to marry. So they get married, except for the daughter had bigger feet than the man, than the mother.
Oh. Oh. Oh my
That
God.
was really good.
So this was like a puzzle kind of a story from one of our ancient stories that are there. So then in due course of time they gave birth, both of them, and then the question that was asked was like, what is the relationship between these kids?
Hmm.
It is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling. So I just wanted to emphasize that that when you go and do sparsha, right, when your senses go and touch the sense objects, then we have to be careful because it's sticky. Senses are sticky. Sometimes they say, yeah, it was so beautiful, I couldn't take my eyes off. What is the meaning of you couldn't take my eyes off? But I have to pull my eyes away. What do you mean I had to pull your eyes away? Right? Because eyes are stuck, and they really are stuck. Our Shastras tell us that your senses do go and stick to the sense objects like that, right? So then, here in our verse for today, right, what we are talking about in our verse for today, let me share my screen here. Lost my verse. So in the case of those four Kumaras that our Surabhi Gonda Mataji pointed out, that your nose is stuck, stuck to the beautiful, the beautiful or nice intoxicating smell of tulsi leaves. That's also a good kind of a stickiness that your senses do. Most of the time, it doesn't happen, and that's why in this verse they are saying you have to be vigata-kalmaṣaḥ, right? You have to be, and previous verse, you have to be rid of all material contamination. Until and unless you don't get rid of your material contamination, we will be in a soup always, because the senses are like that, right? So I'm going to bring up our verse here today. So yuñjann,
What does that? Sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
What is constitutional position means? I don't know that.
Yeah, constitutional position means that because of the way that you are made, what is your position, right? So you can say that in so many other terms, like a goat and a lion. So constitutionally, the goat is superior or inferior to the lion as far as strength goes?
Inferior.
Inferior.
Right? So by the constitution, the way they are made, right? Similarly, even when you look at human beings, right? Human beings from a certain part of the world, because of the way their body are built, will behave in a certain manner. For example, they might not feel very cold, or they might not feel very hot, like that, right? Because the constitution, the body is made like that. So now, in our scriptures, when we talk about constitutional position, in our scriptures, we don't talk much about the body except to tell that it's a source of misery. When we say our constitutional position, we are talking about the soul, right? We are not talking about the body. So when we say what is our constitutional position, now it will be like, okay, so now, Satapa, you're the soul, Satapa the soul, right? What is Satapa the soul's constitution, position? The way that soul has been made, right? How the soul has been made, what the soul can do, what the soul will react. So the constitutional position of the soul is, number one, it's marginal. Marginal, it means it has got a tendency to fall into the material world. So that's one position, right? But the positive thing to note about that is that my constitutional position is mame vancho jiva loke. I have been made as a part and parcel of Krishna, right? Then again, my constitutional position, I am what? Das, 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 anu, das. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord. Krishna's servant, right? I'm not somebody meant to order Krishna and get things out of it. So that is my constitutional position. So when we say a person's constitutional position, we are really talking about the soul. Does that help, Uttama Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah. So, so I was talking about in today's verse, right? We were talking about today's verse, and so let's go back, start sharing the screen again here, 6.28. And so here he was saying that this yogī yuñjan evam sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam. So sukhena, he gets happy. And we know we are all going after happiness because why? Because constitutionally, again, Sutapa Mataji, we are Sat, Chit, and Anand. We are made like that, right? We are eternal. We are knowledgeable. We are full of bliss. That is what we are. And that's why when we get covered by this material energy and take various forms and various bodies and these senses, and through these senses, we go out and touch the sense objects, and we forget that we are blissful in the original constitution. And then depending on what is happening to me from the outside world, I will be happy or I will be anxious. But the real happiness that is there, that is permanent, transcendental happiness, you will get from brahma-saṁsparśam. So brahma-saṁsparśam, right? Brahma-saṁsparśam, how saṁsparśam, how is it being translated here?
By being constantly in touch with the Lord.
By with the Lord. Okay. So let's take some examples from our scriptures on touched by the Lord. Okay. Sorry. So what is the, let me bring it up. Sorry, I need to search. Let me bring it up. So which is the big festival coming on the horizon?
Narasimha Chaturdashi.
Narasimha Chaturdashi. Okay, so on the occasion of Narasimha Chaturdashi, let's hear from the Bhagavatam. I might skip over some of the verses because my idea is to focus on the Gita verse that we have today. So this is about who was Hiranyakashipu's son?
Prahlad.
Prahlad
Maharaj, right? Okay. So now Narad Muni is telling this. He's saying that all the sons of demons appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlad Maharaj and took them very seriously. So Prahlad Maharaj started teaching although he's born in a demonic society, he is teaching his friends about devotional service. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by the teachers, Shand and Amar, right? So they are trying to become vigata-kalmaṣaḥ. When Shand and Amar, the sons of Shukracharya, observed that all the students, the sons of the demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness because of the association of Prahlad Maharaj, they were afraid. They approached the king of the demons and described the situation as it was. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much that his body trembled. Then he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. Skipping over to the next verse, Hiranyakashipu said to his son, "O most imprudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you. Therefore, you are an obstinate fool. Today, I shall send you to the palace of Yamraj." So the father is saying, I'll kill the son. "You rascal, you know that when I'm angry, all the three planets of the three worlds tremble along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you?" Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear king, the source of my strength of which you're asking is also the source of yours." Look at that. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He's not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Therefore, moving or not moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then he talks more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he tells his father, please give up your demoniac mentality, right? And then this is very important thing. Observe, he's saying, before that he's saying, do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equipoised towards everyone. And then here he says, except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. And that's why in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, we are talking about mind control, because mind is an enemy, right? We learned that in 6.5. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, then one comes to the position of worshipping the Lord perfectly. And then he's saying, he's preaching him, and then Hiranyakashipu is getting angry. You rascal, you're trying to minimize my value, as if you're better than me at controlling senses. Right? So then he asks this very famous question, "Oh, most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me. A supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar?" Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, thus chastised his exalted devotee son Prahlad with harsh words. Cursing him again and again, Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column. Then from within the pillar came a fearful sound, which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. "Oh, my dear Yudhishthira," so Narad Muni is telling this to Yudhishthira, "this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods like Lord Brahma, and when the demigods heard it, they thought, oh, now our planets are being destroyed." While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful, tumultuous sound, which had never before been heard. Upon hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. Now, this is a very important verse. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never seen before. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. While Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a Lord, emerged from the pillar. In amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, what is this creature that is half man and half lion? Right? Then Hiranyakashipu is going to study the form of the Lord, who is very tall, very big, hair, all the lion features are over there. And then Hiranyakashipu murmured, "Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made this plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attempt? Who can kill with me? Look at his mind." Thinking like this and taking up his club, Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord like an elephant. Right? So now in the next verses, they will be talking about how the fight goes on. He's beating, Lord will drop him, the demigods are looking at it, and this like that, right? So when Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of Narasimhadev, he's playing just like a cat plays with the rat before devouring it. So similarly, Narasimhadev let Hiranyakashipu free from his hands. And so when that happened, Hiranyakashipu, look at the false ego. He falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his prowess. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up his sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force. Right? So he's going to shout, he's going to fight, he's going to, the fight is going to go on. And then the Lord Narasimhadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his ling here, there, and all around, very much afflicted at being captured, Lord Narasimhadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces within the nails of his hands. Right? So now he's all covered with blood, and he's very, very angry, right? He was very, very angry because somebody was torturing his devotee. Like that. So next here, the impact of all this, this planet, upper planetary systems, the next the verses are going to talk all about that, right? So then the demigods, now what has happened is that the Hiranyakashipu is killed and the demigods are then approaching the Lord. They started with Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra. So next verses are going to talk about that Brahma is, they're glorifying the Lord. So when you glorify somebody, if they're angry, they will be pacified a little bit. So Lord Brahma is praying that you are unlimited. Lord Shiva is saying the end of the millennium is the time of your anger. What you do over here, you have killed this insignificant demon, and so on and so forth, right? Indra is also saying you are our deliverer and our protector. So they are praying. And all the saints present, they are offering their prayers to the Lord like that, right? Then the Pitri Loka people, they come and they are also praying to the Lord. So they're all over there, inhabitants of Siddha Loka. These are the planetary systems. They're all Vidyadhar Loka, right? These are very intelligent people. They do a lot of philosophical pursuit. They read Then Nagaloka come, they are also telling something about Hiranyakashipu and how God has killed. Then the Manus also come, they also pray. Then the Prajapatis come, the Prajapati's job is to increase the population. So they are there. Then Gandharvaka Lok people, they are also coming. The Gandharvas are coming, they are praising the Lord. Then the Charana planet, they are coming. Yaksh Loka people, they are coming. Pink Kim Purusha Loka, where Hanuman and those similar personalities they reside, they are again coming, talking. Vaitalika Lok, they are also there, where the Vaital, Vikram or Vaital, that story. So that those people are there. Then the Kinnaras are there, right? Where the mermaids and all those kinds of creatures live. They are coming and they are praising Lord, right? So the associates of Lord Vishnu and Vaikuntha offered the prayers like that. So they all praying, "O Lord, our supreme giver of shelter, today we have seen your wonderful form as Lord Narasimha, meant for the good fortune of all the worlds." And then this continues on. But the Lord is, Narasimha is not happy. So after Hiranyakashipu was killed, the Lord continued to be very angry. And the demigods headed by Lord Brahma could not pacify him. Even Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the constant companion of Narayan, could not dare come before Narasimha. So what the people again said, when they are seeing all the demigods are saying this, then they prayed and the Lord is angry. So then they turn to the wife and they say, "Oh, come on, you are the wife." So Lakshmi says, "I have never seen the Lord in this situation. He's so very angry. I'm not going to do that." And then guess what? What the others say? They look at Prahlad and they say, "Okay, he came for you. So now you go, right? And now you go and pray to him." So then Lord Brahma requested Prahlad Maharaj, who was standing very near him, "My dear son, Lord Narasimha is extremely angry at your demonic father. Please go forward and appease the Lord." So Narad Muni continued and he said, "O king, although the exalted devotee of Prahlad Maharaj was only a little boy, he accepted Lord Brahma's words. He gradually proceeded towards Lord Narasimha and fell down to offer his respectful obeisances with folded hands." So note this down very carefully, that when Prahlad Maharaj is appearing, right, he's offering, he's going very slowly to the Lord because respect, and he's falling down, and then he's offering his obeisances with folded hands. When Lord Narasimha saw the small boy Prahlad Maharaj prostrated at the soles of his lotus feet, he became most ecstatic in his affection towards his devotee. Raising Prahlad, the Lord placed his lotus hand upon the boy's head, because his hand is always ready to create fearlessness in all his devotees, right? So from this verse, how would you connect this verse to the verse we are studying in the Bhagavad Gita today? What is the verse from today talking about? He's saying, "Thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord." How do you connect this with the verse that we are looking at now? What do you find common between this text, between what you have read here and the verse from today? Do you find anything common? What was Prahlad Maharaj doing?
Is blessing Prahlad Maharaj.
No, the question is, what was Prahlad Maharaj doing?
He fell prostrate at the
Okay, so
soles
falling
of
prostrate
his
at our lotus feet, right? So what is
Yeah.
it?
That's the highest stage of happiness.
Surrendering. Huh?
Yeah, he's doing loving service to the Lord, right? He has been teaching his
Yeah.
people and all that, right? And then
Yeah.
what did the Lord do? What did the Lord do?
Lord becomes
Just put
very
his hand
affectionate towards his devotee.
affectionate.
He becomes very affectionate, but what does he do?
He
He
protects.
touched his head.
He touched his head. Okay, now can you tell me what is common between today's verse and that verse?
That freed him from all material contamination.
Okay, but then what
The
did the Lord do?
highest stage of perfect. The highest stage.
Atyantam sukham.
Okay, we didn't read in that verse that Prahlad Maharaj was happy.
The sparsha,
Yes, the sparsha for 500 points, right? He touched him. He placed his lotus hand upon the boy's head, right? He touched it, saṁsparśa. right?
Mhm.
And what type of sparsha? Brahma-saṁsparśa, right? At a superficial level, right? It's a transcendental touch, right? Brahma means transcendental. So it's a transcendental touch. And then what happened? Text number 6. By the touch of Lord Narasimha's hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head, Prahlad was completely freed of all material contaminations and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed. Now comes your vigata-kalmaṣaḥ.
Yeah,
right?
now it comes that he's free from all
He's
material.
all cleansed, right? Therefore, he at once become transcendentally situated, Brahma, right? And Brahma Bhuta, and all the symptoms of ecstasy began to manifest in his body. His heart filled with love, his eyes with tears, and thus he was able to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. And this is, he's looking at the feet of the Lord, and this is the right sparsha of our senses, right? Our senses should be engaged in things like this, like focus on the lotus feet of the Lord rather than focusing on footprints on the sand and saying like which one is the mother, which one is the daughter, which one I should marry, right? That is not the right kind of saṁsparśa. The right kind of saṁsparśa is when you touch you touch with the Lord, right? And Prahlad Maharaj fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Narasimha with full attention and complete trance. With a fixed mind, he began to offer praise and love with a faltering voice. And he said, how is it possible for me, who has been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words. Although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness, then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified, right? So he talks about like that, right? And then he comes and says, but I think that even by these people, one may possess wealth, etc., etc. But I think even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this. He was an animal. And thus the Lord was satisfied with him, right? So the point to note over here is that, see the touch of the Lord, what the touch of the Lord brought to him, right? If you go into the Bhagavatam again, into the canto number 4, what is the famous story in canto number 4?
Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj, yeah, chapter number
9.
8 and 9, right? So we know, I'm not going to tell you the story of Dhruva Maharaj, right? We know stepmother didn't allow him to sit on the lap and said, you have to die. And then he goes weeping to his mom, and mom says, yeah, that's true. And then you go find the Lord. So he goes, he's met by Narad Muni on the way. And then Narad Muni says, well, go back, you're a Kshatriya, it's okay, you can't find God. And then Dhruva Maharaj insists, and that's when he gives him, Narad Muni gives him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and tells him that go to Vrindavan. So in Vrindavan, he comes to Madhuvan, and then he chants, right? He chants that. And then we see how extreme of austerities he undergoes, right? Not drinking, not eating anything, not for 3 days, only on berries, then grass, then finally only on air, and then stopped air also like that, right? And then we see that, and then the Lord appears, right? So let's see, the Lord will appear a little bit later. I'm just skipping over this. Let's see whether it is here. Or when does the Lord come? He comes in the next chapter. Yeah, this is the first month what he did, second month what he did, like that. So these are the austerities listed here. And he completely controlled his senses and the objects, right? Matra, sparshas, that sparsh he's controlling, Dhruva Maharaj is controlling over here. And then when he's doing so much of austerities, then he's agitating the rest of the universe. So the demigods go running to the Lord, Supreme Personality of God, and says, oh, this is happening, this is happening. Then the Lord tells them, oh no, you know what? This is happening because the son of King Uttanpad, he's now fully absorbed in thoughts of me, but I'll go there and I'll talk to him, right? So then he comes. So let's see. Yeah. So then the Lord tells the demigods, this great sage Maitri, so the story is being told by Maitri to Vidura. So when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears. And offering their obeisances, they returned to the heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasrara incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. The form of light which is brilliant like lightning and with which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process was fully absorbed in meditation. So you see, he's doing chapter 6. Dhruv Maharaj is doing dhyana yoga, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus, Dhruva was perturbed and his meditation broke. So now he's looking at the Lord inside, right? While he's doing meditation, he's seeing the Lord inside and the picture of the Lord goes away. So Dhruv is perturbed. So that is how Lord will appear first in your heart, and then he will appear outside of your heart, outside the body. And so that's what happened. But at the moment the picture goes away from his eyes, he's very perturbed, right? But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. When Dhruv Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruv Maharaj in ecstasy looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. So you see, he's a small boy, right? Yes, there is respect, but look at the love, right? He's embracing the Lord with his arms. Again, although Dhruv Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality in a suitable language. This is what happens when you see the Lord. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruv Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, what did he do?
He touched his conch.
He touched his conch shell to the forehead of Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. At that time, Dhruv Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. So he understood his, Sutapa Mataji, he understood his
constitutional position.
Yes.
Right? In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is spread widespread, Dhruv, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers, right? And then the Dhruv Maharaj's prayers are coming. So I'm not going to go through those prayers. But I wanted to emphasize over here that what does sparsh of the Lord mean? What does it mean, right? That's why, and then we also say that the spiritual master who is a representative of the Lord, right? Mukam karoti vachalam pangur langhate, right? So even those who are deaf, they can start speaking by the mercy of the spiritual master. Similarly, because that he's getting the powers from the. So let's go back to our verse for today, which is 2.29. Right. So now in this chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, we were talking about, he was talking about stages, the yoga ladder, yoga ruda, yoga rukshu, right? So yoga rukshu was, the junior one, and yoga ruda is the higher one. So as you can see in the progression of these verses, right, we see that in the beginning, a person in advancing in yogic practices, he will see a pebble and a stone as the same, right? It's fine. So in your behavior, you won't run after gold, right? Because you see pebble and a gold and stone as same. That's all. But however, if somebody comes in and agitates you by their behavior, you get agitated. Because we are at a certain stage. We are not yet yoga ruda. We are yoga rukshu, right? Then the next higher stage will be that they start seeing friends and enemies, mediators, all that, the whole big list was there. They start seeing them all as the same, right? And as you progress through these verses in the Bhagavad Gita, we are now coming to the stage where a person is becoming free of sinful reactions, is becoming free of material contamination, right? So slowly, they are getting detached, right? And then Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. So when you do devotional service to the Lord, when you are meditating on the Lord, right? So now here in this verse, they are talking about brahma-saṁsparśa, right? So Brahma is from chapter 2 of first canto, chapter 2, right? Verse number 11. We know what? Vadanti tattva tattvavidas sattvam yat brahma advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdate, right? Famous verse from there, which is saying that you can realize the absolute truth. So those who have realized the absolute truth, vadanti, they say. What do they say? That you can realize this absolute truth in 3 forms. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan. Right? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So what is Brahman?
The effulgence.
The effulgence of the Lord, right? The formless. So the first form, so brahma-saṁsparśa here is meaning like, the first stage, right? First stage of transcendental. So when you're realizing God, the first stage, you will realize the Brahman, that the effulgence of the Lord, right? So brahma-saṁsparśa, in the verse today, they are talking about, right? So when you do brahma-saṁsparśa, you will get ecstasy. So we read these two verses, right? Of how Prahlad was so very happy, how Dhruva Maharaj was so very happy, right? So saṁsparśa is here, when we're talking about brahma-saṁsparśas, we're not talking about these examples that I gave you. These examples are like a trailer to going back to Goloka and what we should be aiming for, yeah, right? To become like them, exalted devotees like them. But in the beginning, and especially in respect to this particular verse, brahma-saṁsparśa is just not saying that you will go to the temple and you touch the deities and you say, well, deity is God, isn't it? So I touch the deities and that is brahma-saṁsparśa. Well, that is very high. You have to be very fortunate that you get to touch the deities and do seva, giving food or arti or dressing them. Dressing is very intimate. You're touching the Lord like that. So that is brahma-saṁsparśa. But here in this particular verse, what they're talking about is not the physical touch. It's not that God is coming and putting his hand. It is not that you're going and touching a deity of the Lord. What they're saying is that your consciousness should touch the transcendence. Right? So it's a different kind of a touch. Now, when Dhruva Maharaj returns back home, right? So Dhruva Maharaj's father was very upset when the son left, right? He was very, very unhappy, very, very upset. And so when Dhruva finally comes back home, he goes, and there also the word saṁsparśa is used in the Bhagavatam. So he goes and he hugs his son. That's also saṁsparśa. So saṁsparśa means touch, right? So there are different kinds of touches. A mother might touch the child, lovers might touch each other. But here we are talking about brahma-saṁsparśa, and we are talking not about touching with hands, etc. We are that our consciousness should go and touch. So like they say, let my mind go and rest on your lotus feet of the Lord. So it's all about the mind. And so for us, how will we clear our mind? Is in the Shikshashtakam verse, right? Cheto darpana marjanam. Right? You can, so our minds can come in touch with the transcendence, right? So we will have brahma-saṁsparśa for us is going to happen through the process of chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
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 Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare. Right? And that is what our prayers are always there. And as the yogi advances, so you will get, when your consciousness comes in touch with the transcendence, then the next stage you will see the Paramatma in your heart. Just as Dhruva Maharaj was seeing the Paramatma in his heart. He was meditating, right? Brahmeti Paramatmeti. So he was seeing the Paramatma as well. And then Bhagwan iti shabdate. And then Bhagwan comes, right? Krishna Garbha form. He comes in front of Dhruva Maharaj outside, and then Dhruva Maharaj is totally a gone case, right? He doesn't know, he's falling down, he's kissing his feet, he's so happy. The little boy and little child is doing, and he wants to pray, cannot pray till he gets the conch shell touched to his head, and then he's completely transformed there. Okay, so I'll stop here and open the class for comments, questions, and then I think you all had some questions, right? Sutapa and Sukham in the beginning of the class from teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna, Shukhamala Radhe Mataji, do you have the book in front of
I'll show it to her. So we were reading the chapter in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya where it's about the wise man. And then the astrologer is telling this poor man who came to ask for his future. He said that don't dig on the southern side of your house to find treasure because you will be attacked by a poisonous wasp and you will be baffled. And then he's saying on the western side also there is an impediment in the form of an evil spirit. So what does it mean, western and southern and eastern? And
this is from chapter 4.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
No, chapter 4, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
chapter 4, the wise man.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm just trying to bring this up.
Yeah.
Did-
He
so
said
did-
that the search should be on the eastern side where there is actual light, which is called devotional service or Krishna. So why is it that only on the east side there is devotional service?
You know, in this
Oh,
world,
I know because huh?
in this world also, you know that, right? Where is the devotional service? It's in the east, right?
Yeah. I mean it. I do.
Yeah, these so the directions are, some directions are supposed to be good, some directions are not supposed to be
So
good.
that's why it's like the devotional service in the east. Yeah. East side is always good, positive, everything.
Yeah.
Because sun rises.
Yes. Actually, you will see more of this in chapter 5. You should read the chapter 5. It's a very deep story where, there is a, what is that called? Allegorical story. Narad Muni is going to explain that. Wise man is Narad here, actually, the one that being referred to. Yeah, so he explains that story to one king who was very, very enamored with his wife and how he was spending. So he comes up with lots of things, like there's a serpent over there, which is the super soul, Chandveg, the Jara, there's lots of them. So there he will explain the south and the north, many, many things. So read that in the Bhagavad. Yeah, so let me just bring it up here.
Mataji, I need to leave. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank
The
you.
rest of the thing I will hear from Shraddha-devi Dasi. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so let me bring up that chapter. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Veda-based Bhagavatam, it is Canto 5, I know. A particular chapter, I don't remember which one was it. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto. Is it 5 or is it 4? Hold on, maybe it is 4. Okay, let me start sharing my screen while I'm searching. All right, let's look at Canto 4. You know the story of Puranjana? Yeah, this one. The descriptions of the characteristics of King Puranjana, Canto 4, 25. And then King Puranjana goes to forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry, attacked by Chandveg and the city of King of Puranjana. And Puranjana becomes a woman in the next slide, right? So these 4, if you just read the translations, then you will see all the analogies that he has, and with an explanation there.
Okay.
For each one of them, yeah. So what is north, what is south, what he means by this, what he means by that, yeah. This and this will cover. Mostly this will cover. This is almost coming to the close of death, and then this is the next slide. Yeah, so Puranjana actually, like here, he's telling, so allegory basically is that, when you're trying to narrate a story to somebody using other characters, but they're actually telling the story to that person, like, you are this, right? So Narad Muni, King Puranjana is like that. So Narad Muni is going and telling the king, and then he comes with a story, and will come with names, etc., right? King Puranjana. And so he draws a lot of analogies over there, many, many analogies there. Yeah.
Okay.
Go and read that, and you'll appreciate it. So teachings of Lord Chaitanya again come from this only, from Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any question, anything that you are taking away from this class that struck your mind?
No, but I remember
Touching
the
is the
homework you gave us.
Thank you. Did you do
I could not, of course, do both at the same time.
First tell the homework, because different people might be watching on Facebook today, so they might not know the context.
Oh,
what
so
is
the homework was that to rotate either of your feet in a circle, and at the same time write your name on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Oh,
So I failed miserably because while I was trying to put attention on my
and
circle,
also
I couldn't write the name. And when I was doing the name, I was not rotating my foot. So it's miserable. I don't know if anyone else tried it.
why
but
you asked that, like Mataji?
So that's what I want to ask. Why did you ask us this
Why
homework?
did you ask?
Yeah, but Varshana Mataji is away, and so I don't know whether she did it or not. Yeah. Did anybody else?
I did it,
I did it,
Mataji,
Mataji.
but handwriting was very worse. And spelling mistakes, Mataji. I tried writing Ram, which is very easy, but it is going somewhere. My leg is going somewhere, so I
Yeah,
didn't get
yeah.
even one correct properly. That is the problem.
I will
thought
try
you told
next
us to write our name. So
Same
that
thing
is
happened
even
with
more
me also,
harder.
Mataji.
Right. So we all know so the purpose of this exercise was to demonstrate that your mind at a given point in time, it could be a very tiny point of time, right? 1/1,000,000th of a second. But at a given point of time, your mind can focus only on one thing.
On one thing. Yeah.
Right? It cannot.
Correct.
And I gave you such an easy thing to write your own name. Or even Ram, you made it easier. And to make a circle with your leg, how difficult is that? Right?
So each of them can be done separately, but not together.
Yes. And this is what are used in computers. This concept is used in computers. When, so many people go and use the same computer to do their work. So how does that work get done? Earlier, the computer would do one person's work, finish it, and then go to the other person, do it, and other person like that. People had to wait for 4 hours, right? Like that till your turn came. But what the computer does, what the new computers do is that, they will come here, do a little for this person, and then give him the result, do a little for the next one, little for the next one, and then it goes on so fast doing it that everybody thinks that they are being served. They do multitasking, what is called multitasking. So although they say multitasking, they say that the computer is able to serve so many and do so many programs all at the same time. It's not all at the same time. If you look into it in details, at a given small point in time, a computer is only working on one, like that. Similarly, our mind also can only focus on one thing, and which is the good news, actually. It's a good news because if your mind is focusing on Krishna, it won't focus on anything else at a given point in time. Right? So try to get to that level of focus and that level of attention to Krishna. And yeah, thank you for doing that exercise.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we should take leave now. It's 7 minutes, it's 7 o'clock, 5 minutes, 6 minutes past 7 o'clock, and it's Vrindavali Mataji's sleeping time.
No,
That's in the East Coast.
you cannot stop because of me. I'll sit here till 12 o'clock. Till midnight I can sit. Till midnight I can sit.
Chant. Okay, all
My
right.
chanting is over anyway.
Very
I'll chant more.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you very much, Mother.
Kalpatarubhascha
Vasindabhyev
kripasindhuvayascha
cha patitanam
patitanam
pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo namo
namaha.
namaha.
God Premanande.
Hari
Thank you
Hari
so
Bol.
much, Shraddha Mataji.
Thank you for joining us. And
Thank you,
you.
Mataji.
Zoom,
Hari Bol.
Facebook, YouTube,
Hari Bol.
wherever.
You
Have a nice-
all are enjoying there. I am here.
Lamentation.
Shubha Mataji. Huh?
That's lamentation.
Yeah.
Don't lament.
Now I don't know. Now I don't know whether I can come.
Krishna is within your heart. Right?
I
So
know.
Maharaj did not have anybody around him. He was there. And you have
No,
many around you.
no, Mataji. I don't know when I can come again.
You will. Keep praying.
I just narrowly missed Guru Maharaj.
Doesn't matter. Guru Maharaj will come. You invite him
Yeah.
to your home.
Yeah, I see. I see the picture, old picture now when I came and cooked. I wanted to do that, but I couldn't do it. That's all.
Well, doesn't matter. You're cooking at that place as well. Don't worry. Okay, I'll have to take leave now, my dear students.
Okay, we'll let you.
And my dear devotees.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Again on
Thank
Sunday
you,
morning.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams.